I believe that these 10 foundational calisthenic exercises are going to be your key to advancing and progressing on your calisthenic journey. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jake. I'm so glad that you're here. Today I'm going to be breaking down these 10 calisthenic foundational exercises, and I'm going to be giving you the regressions and progressions of each exercise. A regression is simply an easier variation or an easier way to perform an exercise, and a progression is a more challenging or more difficult way to perform the exercise. Let's get right into the video. Starting off with push exercises, we have none other than the push-up. The first exercise that's going to be the most easiest is going to be the wall push-up. This is a great way to start out, especially if you're a beginner. Start on the wall. From there, you're going to progress to your knees, doing simple knee push-ups. And then from this point, you can go on to negative push-ups. Now, I want you to keep in mind here that the negative portion of any exercise is going to be your bread and butter. All this is it's known as the eccentric portion, just like in this clip. I'm lowering myself down in the push-up, I'm dropping to my knees, I'm coming back to the top, and I'm slowly coming down. This is going to make me stronger in the concentric portion, and it's going to help me advance to the next part, which is the normal push-up. After completing the normal push-up, you're ready to move on to more challenging and difficult moves like the explosive push-up. From the explosive push-up, you can move on to movements like the weighted push-up or resistance band push-up. And I had a tough time deciphering which one I wanted to put above the other, so I would kind of put them at the same level. But you can also combine both of them by adding weight to your body with a weighted vest and also adding a resistance band, a heavy resistance band to your body to perform a harder variation of the push-up. And finally, what I believe to be one of the most challenging variations is the archer push-up, just because of how diverse it is in a unilateral movement and the depth that you're getting in the range of the archer push-up. And keep in mind, I know that there are many variations to push-ups, and all of the exercises that I show you, these are just what I feel to be the most important and key to progressing in your journey through calisthenics. The second push exercise is going to be the dip. Really, the easiest variation to start off with is the chair dip. You can find a low elevation, and you want to make sure you're externally rotating your hands here so you can prevent shoulder injury and perform the chair dip. Now, that's really the only variation I have that's the easiest. Moving on to the regular dip, and then from the regular dip, I highly recommend you go into more of an explosive dip. From this point, you can add weight, and that's really where I would kind of top off the hardest variation of a dip, is adding weight to the movement. The next push exercise, and what I believe to be the most underrated, is the pike push-up. And you can start out very easy on the pike push-up, not many know this, with a wide pike push-up. All you're doing is you're making your legs or your feet in a very wide stance, and you're keeping your hands in a neutral position, and you're performing the pike push-up. Trust me, it is very easy, and it's a lot more, it's a very easier variation than the regular pike push-up. Once you have this down, move on to the regular pike push-up. And once you create this foundation, you can then start advancing to more challenging variations by increasing the elevation. So we have something known as the elevated pike push-up. From the elevated pike push-up, we can start to go to the wall here and slowly either keep our feet on the wall or just go right to stomach to wall handstand push-up. Now you can already see what we're kind of advancing into. This pike push-up will take us to a regular handstand push-up. Now, obviously, there's a lot of other variations that go into a handstand push-up. We'll save that for another video, like how to control, how to balance your body. There's a lot, but keep in mind that you can really start off very easy with the pike push-up and advance yourself all the way to a challenging movement like a stomach to wall handstand push-up. All right, now moving on into the pull exercises. I don't get fancy with this. It's just the pull-up. This is the only pull exercise that I'm adding to this list. Really, I'm trying to keep it as basic as I can. So with the pull-up, the best way I believe to start, and I didn't film this in the park, I had to film this at home, so is doing the Australian pull-up, okay? To do the Australian pull-up, you want to find some low bar to the ground. I had to use a trampoline because there was no bar around me. But you can do this in the gym with like a Smith machine. You make the bar very low, and all you're doing is performing a body weight row. And this is simulating that you have more leverage. It's giving you more leverage to simulate the actual pull-up. From this point, I highly recommend that you move on into heavy resistance band pull-ups. So getting a heavy resistance band, putting it over the pull-up bar, and performing pull-ups. Then when you feel comfortable with this, and keep in mind, when you can at least complete anywhere from about 10 to 12 reps of an exercise in this variation, I highly recommend you then consider moving on to the next when your foundation is firm. Moving on to the next one would be the regular pull-up. From the regular pull-up, I feel that adding weight is going to be your next best option, slowly adding weight to either the hips or putting on a weighted vest. From this point, you can perform explosive pull-ups would be the next variation. Very challenging, but keeping great control here, exploding your chest to the top of the bar. And finally, I'm going to throw muscle-ups in the mix here, only because it is a great last position to challenge yourself still in the pull-up. You can do this with heavy resistance bands as well. Keep in mind, there are a lot of things that go into the muscle up, and that can be another video I can jump in as well. And I also want you to keep in mind that the pull up, there are so many other factors like having great grip strength, being able to do first a scapula pull-ups, pulling your scapulas down, right? There's so many other factors that go in, but these variations that I added, I believe to be the best, again, to give you that extra push on your journey to learning things like the muscle up or the handstand, etc., etc. All right, now moving on to the legs, which is something I need to work more on. We have the bodyweight squat. Really, the best way to start out with a bodyweight squat, if you can't do a regular squat, is to find a very high elevation and sit down and then sit right back up. Over time, you want to decrease that elevation where it's lower and lower to the ground, and then all you're doing is you're focusing on the concentric or the up portion of this exercise. So you're lowering yourself down to the lowest elevation and you're firing yourself back up. From this point, you move on to regular body weight squats. Then from regular body weight squats, you can do some explosive squats. From explosive, you can add weight to your body, so a weighted vest, and perform body weight squats. And then you can mix the both of these to make it most challenging by doing explosive weighted body weight squats. Now onto a very fun leg exercise. This is going to be the pistol squat, something I really need to work on more myself. Really use the same approach as the body weight squat, is find that elevation again, start very high, keep that one leg out, and then over time just slowly decrease the elevation lower and lower to the ground until you feel more confident. And then when you feel more confident and you have more power and strength from this position that is closer from the ground, you can add either rings or like a TRX like hook or hoops, and hold on to this while you're doing the pistol squat. And the big thing to keep in mind here is that you don't want to be using your arms when performing this movement with support from your upper body. You want to just be using your lower body. So, because that's all the pistol squat is, it's a lower body movement. So when you hang on to these rings, make sure you're not pulling yourself up with your arms. Then we can move on to the regular pistol squat. Really, the only more challenging variation after this that I recommend would be either increasing your depth, so standing on a high elevation and doing a deeper pistol squat. And then after that, I highly recommend you move on into adding weight to your body just to make this variation more challenging. Oh, now on to abdominal exercises. Very underrated. One of my favorites to kick it off is the hollow body hold. To start off with this hollow body hold, to make it easy, is tucking your knees to your chest, tucking your chin to your chest. You're kind of in this rounded ball, but your low back is still on the ground. Hands are by your side. This is the easiest variation. Moving on, we can move into kicking our legs out straight, keeping our arms by our side, chin is still tucked. From this position, we can bring our arms overhead, and now this is known as the regular hollow body hold. Keep that low back firm and flat into the ground though. And then to make this exercise more challenging and more difficult, we can add some kind of weight to our hands to even put more pressure on our abdominals to keep us in this position. I promise you, if you continue to practice this, you will have a crazy amount of strength, and that will translate to movements like the muscle up, like the handstand, like the front lever, because if you have a strong core, you're going to have more power in the movements and more stability in the movements that you do. The second abdominal exercise, and I can't leave this one out, it's the L-sit. The L-sit is such a foundational movement for learning movements like the L-sit to handstand. And here's how you can start. The easiest way to start is going to be keeping your knees tucked in and heels on the floor. From this point, you can then bring both legs out in front of you, still on the floor though, and then onto one leg straight out off the floor with one bent by your side. Then from this position, moving the bent leg out in front of you on the ground while the other is still up. Now making it a little more challenging by tucking your legs in and hovering your heels off the ground, transitioning then into one leg tucked and one leg extended. Both are off the ground here. That would bring us to the regular L-sit. See, what we're really doing here is we're slowly progressing to the L-sit because there's no rush. This is technically a calisthenic skill, and what we're doing over time is we're just breaking down each movement with our leg, so we slowly become more confident in the next, more confident in the next, until we have a great proficient strength to hold the L-sit. What I highly recommend you keep in mind is that you can at least hold each of these movements before going on to the next one for at least 15 seconds. That's going to make you build a strong foundation. From the L-sit would be the V-up. I can't do that, so don't judge. And yes, you can do this without parallettes. I just recommend you have some kind of parallettes or even like a stack of books by your side to make this a lot more easier to learn. Now moving on to the last exercise, and this is more of a functional movement as a whole rather than a specific exercise. And it's going to be the scapula push-up or the scapula pull-up. Now, let me explain why this is so beneficial. Because in calisthenics, we use our scapula a lot. We use our scapula for every single calisthenic skill, like the front lever, like the handstand, like the muscle up. We have to learn how to move our scapula in all different ways. We have to learn how to elevate it, depress it. We have to learn how to protract and retract our scapula in certain positions, even when we do basic movements like the pike push-up, pull-up, or push-up. So keep in mind here that when you see these movements, they're going to be more of a tool for you to incorporate in your daily routine. And I promise you, if you can start to slowly learn how to functionally move and flow around with your scapula in all different ways, this is going to level up your game. Let's first take a look at the scapula push-up. Here we're in a regular push-up position, and all we're doing is think of yourself pushing your chest to the ground while keeping your arm straight, and then physically doing the reverse, pulling your chest to the sky, or think of your scapulas completely pulling apart. So what we're doing here is something that I just explained, which was protraction and retraction. So now this is teaching us how to protract and retract our scapula. Moving on to the next exercise would be the scapula pull-up, and you got it. This is teaching us how to elevate and depress our scapula. All we're doing here is we're keeping a straight arm, and think of yourself as pulling your armpit to your pocket. So keeping a straight back, you can even look up and just pull that armpit to the pocket, keeping a controlled movement throughout the whole time. So there you have it. Those are the 10 foundational calisthenic exercises that I truly believe will transform your journey, and slowly start to integrate these in your daily routine, whether these are the regressions of the exercise or the progressions of the exercise, and let me know how they go in the comment section below. Also, if you have any extra movements that I didn't add at all that you find to be very foundational for your own journey, let me know in the comment section below and I'll make sure to get back to you. Thank you guys so much. I pray that the Lord continues to be gracious to you and shines his light upon you. God bless all y'all, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.